bring on board Peter McGuire, Chief Executive Officer of XM Australia. Hi, Peter. Thanks for joining in. Good afternoon from India. A very interesting turn of events where it looks like this time President Trump is not dilly-dallying and he wants to completely bring down Iranian oil to zero. Do you really see that as a possibility where Iran's imports dwindle down to zero?
Well, good morning, Mabina. I don't know whether they'll dwindle down to zero, but he's certainly, with John Bolton's assistance and a very sturdy hand, I think he's going to cause major economic impacts for Iran, and how many barrels they're allowed to export and where they're allowed to export across the world is going to be a very, very telling tale. And I think that that's going to underpin price, and that's been very evident in the last matter of 24 hours. And I think there's further upside over the next week.
Level that you think crude can touch on this news flow?
Pankaj, I don't know. I think it's got the capacity. Why can't it hit 80? When you're thinking about what crude's WTI is up, I think nearly 45% since Christmas. Anyone at Christmas would have said, you know, there's no way that you'll hit those sort of numbers by mid-April or Easter, and it has happened. And I think there's even further upside for Brent. Brent's got the capacity to take an 8-0 number out. I'm fairly sure of it sometime in May, if not sooner. And the reasoning is quite simple, because that it's an economic powerhouse. What China's been able to do last week, those numbers coming out and US numbers have been extraordinary, and most equity markets across the globe, the big ones that is, have had an incredible first 3.5 months this year, and there's strong economic growth. So I think the crude price will edge up higher from here.
Yeah, I think a lot of market participants do believe that as well, that crude will jump higher. Peter, you know, now this puts the OPEC in a very interesting situation. They cancelled their April meeting, or rather they just deferred certain portions of what they were going to discuss in the April meeting to June. And of course, I know June is a long time from now, especially when you look at President Trump's usual capriciousness when it comes to making decisions. But do you believe that this is something that could cause the OPEC coalition to cull back their output deal that was decided back in December?
I don't necessarily think they will, because last month I attended the Azerbaijan meeting in Baku, and that was the JMMC meeting. I think that was on the 18th of March. And there is another meeting next month in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, I think around about the 20th of May. And then the OPEC meeting that you're referring to is the big one, which is the 24th and 25th, or approximately, of June, which is only 2 months away. Now, what happens between now and Jeddah is going to be an incredibly interesting time, because in that impact, we all understand the, I suppose, the rivalries, and I'll say that trying to be politically correct, Saudis versus Iran, and what the price is going to be over the next matter of weeks. Now, if Iran is hit that heavily, it's only going to do one thing, and I think that's spur prices to the upside. So President Trump's got another agenda also. He wants to get re-elected. And like your Prime Minister Modi, they don't want high oil prices for their domestic consumers.
Right. You know, when we just talk about crude, Peter, you said that it can go till 80, or, you know, how things go ahead. But just wanted to say that, you know, once the clarity on, you know, how things will go ahead and Iran will come, do you think the other countries would bump up their production, and that would be the next trigger to watch out for?
I think absolutely. I'm pretty sure that the likes of Saudis, the likes of Russia, there's a disconnect with what's happening in Venezuela. We understand that Libya's got some major turmoil internally, but I think they'll make the slack up. Also, what's been interesting is you've seen a reduction in the amount of rigs coming online, or a decline of them, US rigs, yet they're producing at record numbers as far as their domestic production. And I think the other side has always got to be the unknown as far as driving season, hurricanes, and all of the Northern Hemisphere summer really can contain and drive prices not only higher, but with more volatility due to weather outages. You can have extra geopolitical concerns in those political hotspots, and what happens as far as US dollar. So I think that there's so many factors at play. Also, the hedge funds are really starting to mount longer positions, and I think that the hedges are really driving prices and assisting getting those higher as well. So from a profitability aspect, it's been an incredible trade for the last 100 days of crude oil, and I think that will remain over the next 30 to 60 days at least.
All right. Okay, in fact, earlier in the day, we also caught up with Vandana Hari from Vanda Insights, and she believes that anything higher than 70 per barrel will impact emerging markets, and one must, of course, keep an eye out on OPEC supply as well from here on, and the Iranian oil import waivers as and when they come, if they do come, that is.
Emerging market economies, which are actually the biggest contributors of oil demand growth as well, are going to suffer. So up to $70 per Brent, I think, is still digestible, but beyond that, it starts getting difficult. Watch out for in the coming days and weeks is not just how high the crude prices go, but what sort of pressure starts to come down on OPEC from Trump and from other major consuming countries like China and India, which will obviously be besieging the Saudis and the OPEC members to put more crude into the market, because not only are they cutting back, but they're cutting back much more than they had pledged. So I think we'll have to watch out for these things as well.
All right, Peter, as well as Vandana, really appreciate you joining in and giving our viewers your perspective on what we can expect from crude. Of course, Peter tracks the OPEC coalition very closely. He will be traveling to Jeddah as well next month when the coalition